And welcome to the Ask More Questions podcast. Today I'm here with Ollie. How you doing, Ollie?
I am doing fantastic. I almost just belched into my microphone. Hi,
Oh, that would
hello.
have been awesome. Speaking of belching, we're just gonna get right into the silly.
Sure.
I gotta tell you a story about because you post drinks online that I think are beautiful,
Thank you.
and the former lush in me, there was a period where I might have been deconstructing and dealing with things and going through a pandemic and stuff, and I kind of had too much on the regular, so I don't drink that much anymore. However, every once in a while, I like to go out and let loose, especially if it's been a rough hour or week or whatever. So my wife and I hear about this thing in town at this venue that I hadn't been to before here in Kansas City, Missouri. And I'm like, well, it had like a dark goth theme or something like that, and it sounded like a freak show. And I was like, I so want to go to this just to check it out. Sounds great. So I go, have a drink, have another drink, do some dancing to like New Order and stuff like that, and have more drinks. And then I don't know why I paid. Well, I don't know why I was the one signing, but at the end of the night, I signed, put my signature on it. And then the next day I was like, oh, I got to like do some bank shit and like reconcile all that.
Oh, yeah.
And then I realized that I had simply rounded up for the tip. So just the tip was actually something like 73 cents.
Oh, no. Oh, you fucker.
I know. I felt so bad. And I'm like, oh, man, I need to go down there and take care of this. And then I realized that they didn't open until Thursday. And so this is like Sunday morning or something. And
that sounds very Missouri. It's the bars cannot be open on most of the week.
It's just this venue, I think. This venue, they're more for events and things like that.
Oh, gotcha.
And so they're kind of new, but it was a really cool place, and I felt like shit the whole week, right? So I go to work, and I'm talking to a guy that works there that he's a musician and he knows everybody. Literally, there's so many people he knows, it's crazy. And I was telling him the story, and he's like, oh, I wonder if this is my my friend so and so. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know, maybe. And he's like, let me text her. So he texts her, and he's like, did you get stiffed on a tip? And she's like, oh yeah, I did, like did whatever. And I was like, oh fuck. And then he shows me I said, let me see, he shows me the Facebook picture, and I'm like, I mean, I'm trying to go on recollection from that night. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, that picture is a few months old, and that's the most recent public picture. But if she cut her hair, yeah, I think that's her. And he's like, well, here's her Venmo. I'm like, okay. So I Venmo'd $50, to make up for an $80 tip. Right?
That's awesome. You know what you just did? You know what you just did? In another scenario, we'd have called that an act of God. Right.
Yeah, right.
Brought this all together.
Well, hold on, because this story ain't over. So last Saturday there was some bands playing, and I was like, oh, I want to go back there and like check out bands instead of just like a dance night. So we go, and I'm like, okay, so like the front part of the house is a small stage and stuff like that. And then the back part of the house is like the restaurant and the bar that we were in the last time that we were there. And I walk in, and I see the bartender. She's working. And I'm like, hey, you're so-and-so, right? And she's like, no. It's just like, oh, no. God damn it. I'm like, Oh, well, we were in here. I explained the whole story, and just to cover my bases, I had brought $50, and I saw. So that was the most
The
expensive
most expensive
night
tip.
out that I've had in a while, but I made it right. And what's great is like, she said, "Oh, what's you guys' names?" And then whenever we came back for like a refill later, she was like, "Oh, hi," and to like
See,
set my
that's
name and
good.
everything. And I was like, "Oh, good," because I knew that and I might go back there Monday. So you got to be in good graces, right? I mean, I don't want somebody spitting in my drink because I stiffed them on a tip, but holy shit, that was,
That ended up being a pricey gratuity. Yeah.
Yeah, it did. And it was probably the Malort that did me in, but I know, right? It's the nastiest drink in the world, and I decided to have one that night. But tell me about your fancy drinks. Why do you why do you go to such detail and effort to make these beautiful mixed drinks? They're amazing.
Oh, thank you. I wish I could say there was a more noble reason than I just kind of like the colors.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, when I first got it started, I'd actually, I guess you could say it kind of started with a bar as well. I used to like never drink. I for a long time I never got out of that, kind of church mouse, don't do any of these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was taken to a nerd themed bar for some birthday at some point, and most of the drinks
themed bar. Hold on, don't just walk past that. Like, what? I mean, I could take that in a lot of different ways, so you're gonna have to be more specific with me.
Fair enough. Well, it was called the AFK Tavern.
Okay.
They also had spaces for people to bring in their board games, things like that.
Okay.
But all the games were nerd themed. You had a Kirby themed drink. You had screwdrivers, but screwdrivers named for like each of the Doctor Who doctors, things like that.
Cool.
I think my favorite one ended up being a drop shot named after a My Little Pony term, but as I'm looking through these drinks, I'm like, well, man, these colors are awesome. And my limited exposure to booze in general, I just thought everything was plain and clear and gray and boring.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, I want to play around with some of this. And so I started mixing drinks, and I ended up going down like the rabbit hole of like looking up liquid densities, right? Like just like, okay, this flavored rum is less dense than this rum, so it can go on top of this if I use a syrup here and mix it this and add some water, things like that. And I don't know, it just kept snowballing.
Wow.
And now, it's just a blast. I love doing it. I like making the pretty drinks, and yeah.
You've actually just blown my mind because I never once thought about that. I mean, it makes sense, right? If you put like Kahlua or I lived in a college town, and they would make these black and tans, and they were so it's like Guinness and something else.
Nice.
And and it would kind of like float and separate and all this kind of stuff. And
see, that's
I
awesome.
never once thought that it was the density of the liquid. But, I just thought it was magic.
Yeah, what? Might as well be, for sure.
Might as well be, yeah. So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about your deconstruction.
Hell yeah.
Ish story, and then I hope we can get into some nerdy history stuff a little bit.
Fuck yeah.
Because I think yourself, me, maybe Liz, who I interviewed a few episodes back, are probably the last three people interested in actual history. So, or at least it feels that way some days. But
oh yeah, it's I don't want to cut you off, but I honestly, I think more people are into history than they realize, because most people, their primary exposure is just learning the names and dates, right? Like getting it checked off for school.
Right.
But the second you tell them about the actual stories instead of just giving them the facts, it makes it so much more relatable. Like my greatest accomplishments, my greatest sense of accomplishment, I should say, when I'm like teaching kids is with a kid who's been terrified of history, kind of coming away with a real interest in some aspect of it. And I'm like, I've corrupted another one. I've made another history nerd. So that's kind of, that's maybe my most lofty goal in life at this point.
My son declared that he didn't like history.
Oh
And then we
no.
found these books at the library called I Survived. And so they
Oh,
are a fictional retelling based upon real historical events from a kid's perspective.
interesting.
He'll be 12, right? Yeah, he'll be 12 soon. And all of these stories are kind of kids around his age. And so we're talking about like, I survived the sinking of the Titanic, and I
Oh, that's
survived
awesome.
the grizzly bear attack of 1916 or something. And
Fuck yeah.
yeah, there's some interesting ones that I've never heard of. So I get to learn as I go along,
Like the
and kind
12
of like
Days of Terror, maybe, right? That kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have. I don't think we're going to go that deep. I mean, they did have I survived the Nazi invasion, and then I survived D-Day, and I was like, fuck, D-Day.
That's
Jeez. I
that's a
can't wait to
lot.
see her. They did a great job. The author is like something Tarshish. I can't remember her first name, but yeah, she does a great job. And then in the back of the book, she talks about the research that she did for the book. So I'm like,
Interesting.
that's good stuff. And we like to read the graphic novel ones. So, but
That's awesome. That sounds really cool. I might have to check those out.
yeah, you should. Speaking of history,
Yeah.
see, I love to do a good segue.
So smooth.
Let's talk about your history.
Sure.
All right. So where'd you grow up?
I did not grow up in a single place. I was born in Chile. My parents were
Wow.
missionaries down there. After I was born, they kind of stopped doing the mission trip stuff quite as much. They moved kind of back to the States. But Dad was still a church planner. So we moved constantly. My sister and I kind of did the calculations at one point. We lived in 22 different houses by the time we actually turned 18. And so it's really hard to say I grew up anywhere.
Yeah. I bet you're a master packer whenever it comes time to move.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. You got your shit. Like I moved a lot too, as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Just jobs, and you rent a place and then you find another place and all that kind of stuff. And eventually you get to the point where you're just like, I don't need this. Throw it away.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you absolutely get that. There's so many times it's like I've been holding on to this for a year, but now that I have to decide whether to put it in a box or not, I'm chucking it away. There's no way I can justify taking extra time to make another box to put this stuff in, for sure.
Yeah. What was the denomination they were in? Obviously Christian, because I don't know of anybody else doing missionary work. I mean, I don't know. Are there Muslim missionaries? That'd be interesting.
That would be interesting. I don't know. You got the Mormons, but then the other Christians say they're not Christian anyways, or whatever.
That's true.
No, it was Dad was pretty non-denominational.
Mm-hmm.
I think because every church he did sign up for was called something Christian church, which I know is some kind of pseudo Baptist conference kind of thing, where it is this like light organization of a different collection of churches. But as far as Dad was concerned, it's pretty non-denominational. It kind of went with the flow. Normally that kind of balanced out into being literalist, and mostly they tried to claim not legalistic, but they were pretty fucking legalistic. But they also said, but we're not as stiff as the Baptists because we let you wear jeans and sometimes we let someone speak in tongues. And so that's kind of, it really tried to blend the lines together, did my dad. So
wow, that sounds actually non-denominational versus like I was raised Southern Baptist, and then as an adult, I decided to, I don't know, maybe just naturally gravitated to find my own way. And I found non-denominational churches because I really wasn't terribly interested in, I think I went to a Baptist church for a little while and then, sorted it out. And then I figured out that non-denom where I live just meant Baptist, but with drums. And so and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I can handle this. And yeah, you could wear jeans.
Yes.
So no one cared. I think that's a societal thing, though. I think that I think we've just over time just said, jeans are fine.
Yeah. And that's
But
that's the church in general, right? Is they drag their feet kicking and screaming, but eventually they adapt to some societal thing several decades after everybody else. And that's just kind of how it works. So
now you had said to me that you don't really recall, or you didn't really have like the traditional, I don't know if it's traditional or not, honestly, but this, let's read the Romans Road, come do an altar call, say the prayer, say the sinner's prayer, which is funny because I don't think that's actually terribly biblical. Like, really, if you boil it down to, it's like, well, if you believe in your heart that Jesus Christ was raised from the dead, then you'll be saved. And I'm like, okay, so that's really it.
Exactly. And that's ostensibly it. And then you'll get into the nitty gritty, and some will be like, no, you absolutely need the water baptism. And others, no, you absolutely need to do the confession, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm glad it's clear, right? I'm glad that it makes a lot of sense. But you believed. That's all that matters. So
I did. And it was, again, born on the mission field, raised in the church. It wasn't really it was taken for granted, right? And it, I can't even say it was forced or anything. It just, there was never even the possibility or prospect of anything else. So there was never any kind of like, it was a sinful life. And then, yes, at some acquire the fire event as a teenager, I felt compelled to go forward during the sappy music or whatever, right? It was, I was baptized when I was 7.
Wait a minute. Was it sprinkle or dip?
It was dip. It was full on dip.
So you did it the right way.
Did it the right way. It was, I've been told, I was told after the fact it was my choice. But it was a result of what was called by my parents, being plagued by demons. Apparently they were going to wait until I was a little over 10, something along those lines. But apparently I woke up screaming constantly in between like ages 6 and 7. And instead of them thinking, maybe take this screaming child to a doctor, maybe these are night terrors, they're like, nope, demon, let's put you in a bathing suit and stand you in front of dad's church, 300 people, and get you to agree to go into the tub behind the altar there. And
wow.
So that was the baptism.
I'm sorry. How do you feel about that now?
Partially, it's so weird because I genuinely don't remember the screaming they talked about.
Oh. Okay.
As I got into adulthood, it kind of became clear there's a fair few things that it kind of blocked out or whatever.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. Or maybe, hypothetical. Mm-hmm. When you got baptized, the demon left.
Of course. And you better fucking believe that was the line. You absolutely better believe that was the line.
Or I wouldn't be surprised if, as a child, you learned to suppress things because it caused a reaction in the adults that didn't know what was going on. So,
yes. And that is more likely, obviously not to them. And this is obviously me suppressing the truth and unrighteousness. But what I do remember as a kid is being terrified of ever waking my parents up at night. I was a kid with like really bad asthma, but I would suffer until morning when they woke up, and then they would take me to the hospital because I'm like, I know I'm not supposed to wake them up. I know I'm not supposed to wake them up. And after they told me years later about the situation around the baptism, I'm like, oh, that might be why I kind of thought this way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was the I guess closest to a technical turning point was, that was the baptism day. Yeah, like since I didn't have kind of a conversion into the faith, I didn't have a pivotal, conversion out of it. Which, makes for not as many compelling testimonies. I mean, you were raised in it. Every week you had someone who, their lifetime was drugs and sin and suddenly light bulb flipped. Suddenly they're Christians. Like that was the testimony every week. Cause it's not as exciting when you talk to the ones who are like, well, this is just what it's been. Right. So,
Yeah. Well, but see, I think I think it's good to talk about all the different kind of ways, because I think there are plenty of people just like you that were talking about a belief system that was instilled from you whenever you were very young, and when your prefrontal cortex had not developed, and you have.
It's today, man. That's still today.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything. And then you trust your parents that they're telling you the truth, because your mom was a police officer, right?
Yeah, she was.
So you would think like, well, the cop's not going to lie to me, right? Because cops don't do that,
right?
All right, that's a little cheap shot there, but
no, and that's why what, I can get you off the hook for that, because I think at the time I was baptized, she hadn't become a cop yet.
Awesome. I'm off
you're kind of off the hook there. I think she was still doing the as close to trad wife as she could get, until we realized Dad's fucking preaching wasn't going to pay the bills as much as we hoped.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh,
well, I'll come back to that in a second. But yeah, so you have a trusted authority figure in your life, and they tell you things, and you're going to believe your parents. Every kid looks up at parents and believes them, and same with mine. And I don't fault mine. I just feel like they succumb to the same generational mind virus that everybody did before them, and it stops with me.
Exactly, and that's part of the conflict, right? Is this sort of and I almost feel bad saying this, because I know of how many adult kids have kind of had to go no contact with their parents or anything. But parents in general, like, genuinely thought they were doing what was right. Like my folks, I never thought they were lying. I think they were just taken in and they kind of passed it on.
They were just training a child in the way they thought they should go.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then, couldn't pay the bills, huh? Like, it was tough as a traveling missionary, preacher family.
So yes, on occasion, sometimes he'd either take over at a church that had a decent sized congregation. Other times, he went to a church that was struggling, or started a church from scratch, and those didn't have as solid a bill. And since they were both fluent in Spanish from doing mission work for so long, Mom kind of leveraged that into being a cop. It's astounding how many cops think it's important to speak Spanish for some reason. And then, definitely in my teenage years, Mom was regularly a cop and Dad was a preacher. So that was the setup.
Yeah. So, when did you start to get to the point that you didn't really believe any of this stuff anymore? Is this high school? Is this college? I mean, I know you've got a post-grad degree. So, what part does that start to fall in line, and what did that look like?
Right. I would say probably definitely post high school. Between high school and college, I did go to a trade school. I'll backtrack for a sec here, Gene, and I do apologize, but I will say that, like, the first time I doubted was probably like 11 or 12. And that's just from being at Bible camp and reading the Bible for funsies and finding stuff. It's like, well, this doesn't actually seem to line up with what I've been told when I've been told to read specific things or believe specific things. Goodness, excuse me. So from there, that was just like the first kind of inkling. But over time, especially as you hear the same testimonies over and over, and especially as you hear the same arguments over and over, you start to get a little jaded no matter what. But as after I did kind of move away for a while, when I moved away, it was to a trade school. I wasn't taught evolution or any of the sinful ways or anything else. It was just like I was in Idaho for a fucking year or two.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah, say no more.
But I'd come home for holidays and things like that, and I did notice that every time I came home, coincidentally that week, God, the Holy Spirit, whatever, happened to have created an opening for someone to come and serve at Dad's service. Some, maybe doing a fucking PowerPoint or worship lyrics in the back or leading worship.
Mm-hmm.
I did that a fair bit. I was like, well, that's an interesting coincidence every single
Praise
time
be.
that happened. Yeah, praise be, man. But that definitely got cynical. But as far as like specific turning points, I don't know, like I said, you just kind of cooled down as you went along, more and more bad arguments. The same stories over and over of people at their lowest and most desperate hearing a voice. It's like that's not as convincing as you kind of seem to think it is, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Or someone came to the door with a check for exactly what I needed for groceries or rent or whatever for the month. It's like, that seems to happen a lot. That's astoundingly frequent.
Some guy showed up at the bar and paid $50.
She was $50 short of rent that month.
That's right. And he just happened to settle on $50 to make up for a night of drinking. Praise be. Like, what part of the alcohol part and, getting drunk did you think played a hand? God
Zero.
works in mysterious ways. Anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Mysterious ways, man. Those mysterious fucking ways explain so much. It's like the Force in Star Wars, man. Anytime there's a plot hole, just mysterious ways where the Force did it.
I think I believe more in the Force now than I do God. But, so many times I've tried to like move something by thinking about it, like Luke Skywalker, and then I thought maybe it's a God thing.
Yeah, for sure.
It's funny you mentioned 11 or 12 where you had your first doubt, and it reminded me of the comedian Julia Sweeney. She's got a pretty good YouTube video where she talks. It's like an hour and a half long, so it goes by faster than you think. But she does talk about she was raised Catholic and was very Catholic, and then she talks about there was a moment whenever she was around the age of 12 where she realized she realized too late, but was still trying to get word to, like, I think it was her brother, that she said, like, you can do a whole bunch of stuff right now because you're not yet 12 and you can get away with it and everything's good. Like, you're missing out on a golden opportunity here. So, it's funny that
that
the
is
little rules.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
that is interesting because I was the older child. I was the older one. My sister was the younger one. And I saw, like, I'll say this, my sister, I may bring her up a couple of times because she's like my fucking favorite person in the world. Aww. But yeah, she's pretty awesome. But like, as this kind of, I was definitely the church mouse, the poster child, right? The good one.
Yeah.
And then I'd see her a couple of years younger doing stuff. I'm like, wait, I could have fucking done that. They don't even care anymore. What is this? But so she definitely, I'm like, man, I should have known that ahead of time. But yeah, absolutely. That's sort of like, look, get away with this while you can.
Loopholes.
Out of the mouths of babes, things right.
Right.
But at some point, it's like, well, now you're just looking for reasons to find out. Now you're just, being cynical and trying to cause people to stumble or being blinded to the truth or whatever the fuck. Now that we're so long into this, I should check. Is it okay if I swear, Gene? I've been doing that this whole fucking time.
I fucking love swearing because I don't believe in curse words.
No, yeah.
I have told the story a few times, but I was with my dad at Walmart whenever I was probably my son's age, and I asked him, what makes a curse word a curse word? And he said, well, it's just the connotation that society puts on it.
Yeah.
I was like, that's dumb.
That's so stupid. Yeah.
So I have long thought that curse words are fine.
Absolutely.
And regardless of what quote unquote society thinks.
Yeah.
I don't believe there are bad words. They're just words, and if you get offended by them, then that's on you.
Exactly. They're colloquial emphatics, and yes, some people condition themselves to And I'll admit, I was one of them where I'm like, oh no, if you say that, you're diminishing your other words, you're undermining the quality of what you're saying. And then at some point I realized I'm fucking smart and I want to swear anyway because they convey sentiments and that's fine.
I know. You stub your toe and you say, oh gosh darn it. It's just like, what's the guy's name off The Simpsons? Flanders.
Flanders. Yeah.
Gosh darn it. And it just doesn't have the same cathartic experience to like get it out and like squeeze it out of your body. I almost said soul, which I don't want to say soul because then someone will yell at me, but you know what I mean. Your feelings, but yeah, it doesn't really line up with all that. So fuck it.
Exactly. Well, and I mean, you get the people. We're on social media. You get the ones who lose their fucking minds when you don't capitalize the G in God. It's like, guys, you condition yourself for this. This isn't actually a big thing.
There's a lot of gods. So
there's a lot of gods,
and I don't want to show favoritism.
Exactly. But you mentioned Flanders. I should point this out before we move on.
Okay.
My uncle, who is also a pastor, was essentially Ned Flanders. He had the mustache. He wore the sweaters. He was very much and you have never met, even among Christians, you've never met a fucking freak out at the sound of profanity as this man. It's, he'd be the like happiest person on the planet, but if he heard someone say damn, he'd just freeze and say language and then move on. And it's like, but he, if ever he wanted to swear, it was absolutely those darn gosh diddlies. And so it's just so fun. My mom, So, and my mom, she's she's still very much in the faith, and she's absolutely, if she gets mad, I hear rassafras. That's the closest she gets to fucking swearing.
I heard my mom curse once in my life and hers. She said she hung the phone up. This is how old I am. She slammed the phone down back whenever they had cables attached to them. And she said, fuck. And I was like, I mean, it was just an amazing, my mom was never an angry person. She just never was. And so for me to do that, I was like, what the hell? It was something. You witnessed
the golden goose there for a second or whatever.
I know. It was great. It was like, oh, cool. You are human. The Flanders thing, I had a friend that was like that, and he would get very bothered, and I too was very bothered by using God's name in vain, whatever that actually means. I've heard so many things since then that I don't even know what that phrase actually means, but
neither do the people who say it.
Right. And in modern day parlance, it means to say things like, God damn it.
Yeah.
So now I say it all the time because God damn it, I want to.
God damn it.
But sometimes I mix it up. Sometimes I use gods. I don't, I said, I don't want to leave out anybody. I'm all inclusive in my mythical beings, and so
DEI deities, man.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that. DEI deities. Yeah. Sounds like a band. So as I presume you got your undergrad in history, or am I wrong?
My undergrad was in education and English.
Okay.
My initial intention was to do English for my graduate degree, for my master's. But I got really hooked on history as I was doing the gen ed courses. So when I went to a fairly kind of like middle of the road university for my bachelor's degree, but I was really passionate for history. And I decided to try for Harvard, and for some reason they accepted me. So I got my
Harvard,
master's.
I'm not familiar with Harvard. Is it a big school?
It's famous in the area where it is. It's in a college town.
Okay.
Kind of thing,
Okay. So it's one of those, you would know it if you were in the area type of things. Okay. Got it. Yeah.
People there get invested in it.
Yeah.
It's not like those of us that graduated find an opportunity to name drop every fucking chance we get. But
Harvard.
Yeah. But I realized, man, I fucking love this history stuff. I didn't touch on the biblical stuff at that kind of point in time. But my focus has been early U.S. history. So the closest I get to the religious stuff is ad nauseum kind of repeating, no, the United States wasn't a Christian nation when it started or whatever the fuck. But
What?
yeah, it's a shocker. But yeah, so history just I went from English to history, and I've never looked back. I love teaching it. I love picking it apart. It's fucking awesome, man.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So
what, if any, do you think that might have played in you not believing anymore?
Oh, interesting. Not as much as you might think. Okay, tangentially. I'll say this. One of the first times that I realized, historically, people would just make up gods or their beliefs or whatever, kind of reflecting on the culture, was when I did like some deep dives into Greek mythology, things like that. Even though my focus was early U.S. history, I covered fucking everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, we retroactively, we kind of see them as kind of like revering Zeus and these Olympians and things like that. And when you look into the history and look into the recordings and stuff, it's like, no, they thought their gods were assholes. They just thought they had to fucking deal with them. Like they didn't have a choice in this. And it's them kind of realizing, look, we're just trying to put a name on these really shitty situations that we're dealing with. It's like, well, you know what? That kind of resonates here. It is kind of what you see in the church a lot, the modern Christian church, to specify, because yes, there are so many, God forbid. But the modern church, and especially as you look at the history of the church, you're like, wow, it sure does seem to tail after society by a couple of decades, but sure does seem to trail after them and find reasons why God wants it that way.
Yeah.
And for some of them, they think it's, they're trying to sell it as this wonderful thing. But for some of them, like the ancient Greeks, they're like, look, we've got this almighty deity. We just got to do whatever the fuck we can to keep him happy. I don't want to end up where he can send me or whatever. Right. So it's like, it's and everything from biblical days to modern day. Everyone's just trying to wrap their head around shit, and gods can kind of be convenient for that.
Yeah. Well, I think that there might have been something, how your brain is wired, maybe mine too, that how you look at history and how you think about history and the things that go into, like, how do we get to the point where we can verify to the best of our knowledge that things are true? That I think there's a crossover there.
Yeah.
Which is just epistemology, really, but but it's like, well, how do I know that this is like really true versus how do I know that it was made up? And for whatever reason, I happened to think tonight of this comedian back whenever I was growing up. I'm Gen X and old, white in my beard, and there was this comedian named Mike Warnke. And Mike Warnke had written a book called The Satan Seller. And he had went on like Geraldo or Springer or all of them and talked about his days as a high priest in the Satanic church about how he had seen different things and did different things. And then, of course, Jesus delivered him, and now he's a Christian comedian.
Of course.
And I saw him live once. So he was I loved him whenever I was growing up. I just thought he was hilarious. But I actually believe that Mike Warnke single-handedly brought in the satanic panic of the 80s.
Oh, of course.
Because the media ran with that story.
Yeah.
Did a whole bunch. And then
the daycares and everything, and snowballed from there and all that kind of shit. Yeah.
Well, like, then a couple of, it was probably 15 years ago, there was a Christian magazine called Cornerstone, and they did an article about Mike Warnke and their investigation that it was all fraudulent.
Of course.
And maybe I was thinking about history tonight as I thought about this, because that kind of goes into it, that like we have not much time from when he started his little charade to whenever he got exposed. And now society and information travels so much faster that we can kind of like nip it in the bud. And it made me think about the correlation about like, well, if you got all these stories back then, because as you know, the oldest manuscript is still decades after,
Oh yeah.
Jesus's death.
Yeah, and the
alleged death.
oldest complete one is long after that, baby. Yeah.
Yeah. And even some of the really old manuscripts are like not very big either. They're
No.
like credit card size and stuff like that, or the copies. So,
right.
yeah, it would make it hard to bring true validity to
It would.
no, this is totally true.
Yeah. And
so,
and I think part of that is sort of, and I'll paint a broad brush here, and I will put a giant asterisk acknowledging that this is a broad brush.
Okay.
So many people within the faith assume there's a lot more historical validity than there actually is. For example, I grew up being told that the Dead Sea Scrolls were, in essence, original manuscripts. Because that's kind of what my parents thought. Dad, though he was a preacher, he wasn't always the most critical of thinkers. They, that's what I was told is, oh, we found the original manuscripts for all these, Old Testament books of the Bible. Same with, you've heard the mantras, 40 authors, 66 books, 1,200 years, there's no contradictions, yada, yada. All those kind of things that are just these things that people take for granted and they would not find convincing in any other context. And as I kind of started from a historical standpoint, kind of digging into it a little bit, I'm like, well, okay, there are times here where I can acknowledge there's some historicity for sure. I'm fully on board with the Jesus historicity. I'm fully on board with that dude being a dude who walked around Galilee and stepped on too many toes amongst the Sanhedrin, the religious, the Jewish religious people, as well as maybe the Romans, and stepped too far and he got nailed to a cross for it. I'm 100% on board with that. From there, everything else, if I compare it to other kind of like ancient historical accounts, from there, it's kind of used as a bait and switch. Because especially among believers, there's this idea of, okay, well, if Jesus actually existed and if, for example, we know Jericho existed, and for example, if we know, Egypt maybe had slaves sometimes, and then sometimes they had less, or Galilee was a place, Pontius Pilate was a person, then that must mean that all of it, from the freaking instantaneous creation to the resurrection of a dead Galilean carpenter, must all be true as well.
Must all be true.
Must all be true. If you've got one bit of it, it's an all or nothing thing, which does make sense when you consider the people that have an inerrancy mindset of the Bible. But regardless of that, it's like, well, okay, when we start picking this apart, there's some stuff here that I'm like, yeah, okay, Jericho was a place, and a lot of the different nations and stuff that went on. Absolutely, I'm 100% on board with these existing. But no, we didn't find a fucking ark on top of Mount Ararat that carried every animal on Earth. We didn't find chariot wheels buried under the Red Sea. We didn't find the fucking Ark of the Covenant.
Such a disappointment.
Such a disappointment.
I mean, yeah. I have gotten to the point where I'm like, wait a minute, is that thing even real? And that's a new revelation for me. Like, I have long considered that, like, oh yeah, it got lost, but it's probably underneath the Temple Mount or something.
Yeah, probably, exactly.
But then my middle kid, she and I have been reading painstakingly through the Bible all year long.
Where are you at?
We are in, hold on, let me get up my phone. We are in Chronicles.
Okay.
I can't remember if we're in first or second. I think we're in first.
You got some of the good David stories there. Some of the stuff they can make some for some good
Kings
action stories. Kind of
Kings are better. Chronicles, I mean, so far it's a whole bunch of like fucking genealogy shit. And I do kind of skim those a little bit because I'm like, listen, I'm not going to read all these hard to pronounce names.
We'll come back to this if necessary.
Right. Yeah. And I tell her, I said, I can't wait till we get to the New Testament because then we get names that I can actually pronounce. But yeah, we're reading through and I'm like, wait a minute. We don't know anything about the original temple or the Ark of the Covenant. And I'm like, maybe none of this is real.
Yeah.
I'm still, I mean, I'll deconstruct forever. That's just how this is going to
Yeah.
roll. And I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But this is, it certainly makes you wonder, how much of this is, real and made versus
For
made
sure.
up. And yeah, Jericho existed, but I like to watch these guys that, they're atheist or agnostic, and they dig into the history and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, there was a Jericho, but at the time that these stories were written about that, it was like a small little town,
It was
not
a
a big
tiny
deal.
fucking thing, man.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh man. So I think you're right. I think that a lot of believers do assume that there is much more historical evidence than there actually is.
Yeah.
And
100%.
and then now we have, I don't know, let's say you have a leader of a country go on national television, for instance. I'm hypothetical situation.
Hypothetically, right.
And then talk about something as proof that something happened.
Sure.
And then there are people that will announce, like, aha, told you so. And I'm like, you haven't even looked at the evidence that has not yet been presented. How could you possibly say that's definitely true? And oddly enough, these people kind of run in some of the same circles as the people that,
yes.
that believe that. Imagine that. So, and then I did have to laugh today whenever I saw that the actual evidence presented actually refuted what he said on television. But I'm just like, I
have no idea who you're talking about, Gene. I have no idea what you're referencing.
Oh, sorry, hypothetical. I should have brought. So, okay, so you end up so basically, would you say it just kind of like fizzled out for you then? Like
it did, yeah. For a long time, I kind of went with the well, what's the harm, right? I kind of went with there are communities, there are charities, things like that. I don't think they have the best arguments, but you know what? I definitely kind of straddled the deistic thing for a little while, right? Like the sort of, well, okay, I because I still had in my head the concept that an atheist had to be the militant, angry, bitter at God, whatever, right? Like I can't be anything near that. But I'm like, well, okay, I don't think there's a lot to this whole maybe biblical depiction, but there's probably God and maybe like us to do good things or whatever. There were two straws that kind of broke the back. And they were during COVID. One of them, someone randomly sent me a video of, you may have seen this video or not, I don't know, of Sean McDowell pretending to be an atheist for a classic Christian.
I haven't. No, I haven't seen that. I need to look that up.
It was this Bible class at a Christian college. I can't remember which one, but Sean McDowell came in, who, for anyone listening who doesn't know, is this apologist who's written any number of things. You even if you haven't heard of him, you've probably heard some of his arguments. He came into this classroom pretending to be an atheist so that he could answer questions from believers in what he thought an atheist would answer him. And as I watched him give answers, like I had no context for this video when it was shared with me, but the second I saw him, I'm like, that's a fucking preacher. The second he started talking, I'm like, that's a fucking preacher. That's not an atheist. That's a fucking preacher. And I'm like, they couldn't even risk bringing in an actual atheist into this fucking situation. They needed an atheist to come in and sculpted this version of it. And it was clocked so easily. And so I'm like, okay, I'm getting really close to finding there's just way too much weak support for this kind of thing. I didn't want to stop believing, right? Like I really, really didn't, I was desperately holding on to this because absolutely the concepts of, giving up meant you wanted to sin. Giving up meant you were suppressing the truth. Giving up meant that, you were rejecting a lifetime of whatever the fuck. But it's like I am finding fewer and fewer straws to grasp onto here. And the final straw, actually, I'll hold on to this for a second for a cliffhanger because I don't think I actually gave the first straw. So I'll do that real quick.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. The first straw, and it only reminded me of it because we started talking about the Ark. The very first straw was when I was reading the story of Uzzah. I think that's how you pronounce it in Chronicles and
unless
Samuel.
you want to be Renaissance and say Uzzah.
Uzzah. But his story was the first one I read as an 11-year-old at Bible camp. I'm like, this doesn't actually add up. It was and I'll recount this for any of your audience who don't know this. The story of Uzzah, very, very quickly and shortly. It's only like a couple of verses. It's recounted in 2 places anyway. At one point, the Ark was getting its golden ass shipped from one location to another. And that meant it had to be placed on a cart and carried along dirt roads and whatever you had in ancient Israel. And at one point hit a bump. I think technically it says a threshing floor, if I remember correctly. But the Ark started to topple, and a man named Uzzah, who was walking next to the cart, reached out to try and steady it because he didn't want the Ark that he loved and cherished so much to fall. And God struck him the fuck dead. Yeah.
Oh.
And then God was like, "How fucking dare you try to save this thing that is sacred to the people and a mark of the covenant that I have with them? How dare you?" And he struck him fucking dead.
Yeah.
The story to me as an 11-year-old came off as so fucking legalistic and bureaucratic because yes, there was this concept that you're not supposed to touch the Ark, right? That was this whole thing. When you carried it, it had to be on poles. People couldn't touch it directly, that kind of thing. But I'm like, if this is a fucking God who had this personal like connection with this person who, knew their heart and knew that kind of thing. And the text doesn't suggest they were doing anything other than trying to keep it upright. How could that fucking God just strike them dead and say, well, I don't make the rules. Right. Yeah. And it's like, that was such a discordance. That was the first time that I kind of ever had that kind of doubt. And, I went from there to talk about, I wasn't the kind of kid that just kind of let that stew. I was like, okay, I am a mere child. I need to go teach those that are wiser and more enmeshed in this. And like 90% of the reactions I got, because I went to preachers, I went to elders, I went to scholars, all that kind of thing. And their answers were mostly, well, he must have been proud. He must have had hubris. He must, it's like, well, that's not in the fucking text. You're reading out of the fucking text.
Right. Yeah. You're reading into it and making assumptions because you got to like make it make sense in your head.
Exactly.
To justify your belief.
Exactly. And so there was that and the other, there were like 2 other explanations and I'm probably not going to remember both of them because at this point I've had a lot of rum. I'm sorry, Gene.
That's awesome.
But I one of the other ones was God needed to make a demonstration. People had started to doubt the power of the Ark, the sacredness. And so he made Uzzah reach out and touch it so he could demonstrate his power. And that was part of his plan and whatever the fuck. And I'm like, well, that isn't really a good explanation for doing that to the guy. But the third reason, and this is the one that really stuck out to me as a really bad reason, was, for people who don't know kind of how the story went, this was during the time of King David. So King David was the one who was transporting the Ark. And when King David saw this guy Uzzah get struck down, he freaked the fuck out. He didn't know what it was supposed to, like, what the fuck is God doing? Like, he's like, the dude was just trying to help. God just, and so David said, everybody stop. We're leaving this where it is.
That's right. He just left it there.
He just left it. He said, everybody, we're leaving. We'll come back later. Just put a pin in this. We don't know how to deal with this fucking thing right now. And so they went to because they're terrified of the fucking God that struck down the guy that was trying to keep the Ark upright.
And that's so how we know that David's attachment style was avoidant. He was like, I ain't fucking with this. I'm out.
Yeah, guys, we need to take a step back here and really reevaluate our decisions in this process.
I'm sure it was like I mean, he was probably as startled as you.
Mhm.
You know, it's like, oh, I don't know. Should we be involved in this?
Yeah.
Have we made a bad choice?
Exactly, because this was the guy that is famously called the man after God's own heart, right?
That's right.
Is
Yeah.
the man with the faith to knock down Goliath, the youngest of brothers who went up to this giant and with merely a stone, whose music was enough to soothe the strangled soul of Saul, who
Oh, yes.
totally definitely wasn't homosexually in love with Jonathan, who this was the guy. And he would not deal with this right now. He had to step away. And so when the place where they left the ark was at some dude's farm, whose name I don't remember off the top of my head, but the ark blessed the area. It was, I don't know if they give specifics on how it was blessed, probably abundance of crops and whatever the fuck Bronze Age Israelites thought was a blessing. And so the other excuse I've heard is, well, God killed Uzzah so that the ark could stay there and bless this rural farm, whatever, for a while. I'm like, that is the shittiest reason to do that. That's the stupidest reason to do that.
Yeah.
And eventually, David came back and brought the ark into Jerusalem. And I think that's the time we get the story of him dancing through the streets in his underwear or whatever the fuck. But yeah, so it's tons of bad experiences. But as a kid, when you get bad experiences, you just use that safe explanation, mysterious ways, right?
Yeah.
If nothing else, you just assume that there is an explanation that you just don't understand. And that carried me a long way through a lot of bad arguments for a lot of years.
Yeah. I had a similar type of realization during the pandemic also, because I would be part of a small group that we started off on Zoom because of quarantine and stuff like that, or not quarantine, but don't be around people. And so we'd watch video
social
church services, social distancing. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then we would do that, and then eventually we met in parking lots, and then eventually moved in house. But one of the sermons was talking about Moses and stuff like that, and then in small group we would talk about it, and then I just remember thinking, man, Moses put up with so much shit from these people, and then in one moment he gets angry and touches the rock and gets water out of it. And then God's like, nope, no promised land for you, motherfucker. And I'm like, oh, what?
Yeah.
That's horseshit.
100%.
And especially if you tend to think of God as being just and fair and all that kind of stuff. And then you're like, man, this guy's a dick.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. No, that story is like, dude, this guy, you talked to him as a burning fucking bush. You made him climb mountains twice to bring down your fucking rule book.
Yeah.
He brought you fucking angels of death, water to blood, an entire nation that you carried with him. He's been putting up with these fucking Israelites for decades in this desert because you got picky that they weren't thrilled with the land you set aside for them that was infested with giants or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And then so how dare he tap the fucking stone with the stick? And it's 100%.
It's like my mom slamming the phone down. So it's like, no heaven for you. You said fuck. It's like, okay.
So, and I mean, it was even crueler, right? Because he got to stand on the precipice looking out over the chosen land and then just had to fucking kick the bucket because he couldn't go with him into it. Yeah,
no doubt. Well, as your last thought on Earth, here's what you could add. Thanks, man. That's great. I'm interested to dive into the history, and I don't know if you've ever looked into this, but like the history of the disciples, because one of the amazing arguments that I'd love to hear is like, well, why would people die for something that they knew was a lie?
They die for anything.
I don't know that they did. And you mentioned Sean McDowell. He does have a book called The Fate of the Apostles that I would like to read. And it's my understanding that even McDowell pulled back a little bit and said, there's not great evidence for some of these going all the way back. Yeah. And then I don't know if you know Apologia. And Apologia has the minimal witness hypothesis, which he says, that Bart Ehrman challenged him. I think it was Bart challenged him to come up with a a plausible way
Mm-hmm.
that Christianity could have spread,
Yeah.
right? And I can't remember. There's more to that argument, but anyway, or the question. But and so yeah, so Paul thought about it. He was like, well, when it comes down to it, a lot of the disciples just kind of like filter. They just kind of
Yeah.
dissipate into the background. You don't hear about a lot of them
Yeah.
after the Bible. And then also he said, well, it is plausible that
Mm-hmm.
only Peter believed he saw a risen Jesus,
Yeah.
and that he like a post grief. I mean, unfortunately, I've had just way too much experience with death.
Oh, sure.
Maybe that just comes with the territory of getting older.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, I had some moments
Yeah.
post parental death where
Mm.
I thought that they were supernatural, like
Sure.
seeing a particular cloud that I thought was an angel because my mom really liked angels, and then
Oh,
later I
yeah.
found out that not unlike those formations that are the Ark of the Covenant that are like repeated all over the world,
Oh, yeah.
these clouds, it's a certain type of cloud. They have a certain shape, and it's just our
Right.
atmosphere. And sometimes they produce those clouds that look
Right.
triangular in nature and a little angel-like. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
It.
it is, yeah, the minimal witness hypothesis is like, well, Peter believed
Mm-hmm.
that he saw something, right? So you can
Yeah.
believe something that you saw
100%.
something, and then it spread from there.
Yeah.
And like that is totally plausible.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that must make history like wading through stories like that,
Mm-hmm.
both from a religious or even or a non-religious aspect to wade through those. Because
Yeah.
whenever you were it one of the things I've heard said about like George Washington, for instance, it's like, well, if you believe everything written about him, then you know that he was incredibly truthful.
I'll give, and I'll hit your question, but you did hit one of the areas that I'm passionate about. I do think George was genuinely a fairly kind of honest and forthright person. He
Mm-hmm.
was one of the bougiest motherfuckers on the planet. He was
Yeah.
so fucking rich. Like he came from a wealthy family and then married into more money, and like it adjusted for inflation, he would have been worth for like $500 million fucking dollars today or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think, uh, uh, setting aside everything else about him because he's just a human being, there's so many dimensions, and I'm not going to do whatever. I
Yeah.
do think he was genuinely honest. And that is something I'll say also about my approach to the apostles is I do not go on the assumption that anyone was intentionally lying. I
Right.
don't think that's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
I think, yeah, absolutely. Those stories could escalate. I think it's something that we can find precedent for today of kind of like you mentioned with your mom,
Mm-hmm.
these feelings that we can convince ourselves are signs of a presence that we've lost. Right. And you're talking
Right.
about the apostles who had been, spending 3 years with this apocalyptic creature, just spreading the word. Some of
Mm-hmm.
them were probably convinced he was God. Some of them probably weren't, but they were hoping that he would at least kick the fucking Romans out of Israel or Judea or whatever the fuck.
Right. Yeah. Or at
You
least
know,
make him annoyed enough to be like, we're leaving this place.
exactly.
Yeah.
Israel first, right? They
Yeah.
should come in the right way or whatever the fuck, right? So they were all absolutely convinced that was going to happen. And so when lo and behold, yeah, Pontius Pilate and the Romans were like, look, I don't know what the fuck you Judeans are talking about, but if it'll shut you up, fine, we'll nail him to a tree. And so he kicks the bucket. You've got these apostles who've invested. I mean, some of them have left their livelihoods. Some of them, this is the first time they've probably felt purpose in their lives ever. And, they've seen these crowds. I'm fully on board with thinking that Jesus was probably pretty fucking popular.
Uh-huh.
And so they're with this guy and he's gone. And they're kind of, I love to think of a situation where like the 11 of them, minus Judas, who's, doing his Judas priest thing probably. But they're sitting around a table, and I love to, even though clocks didn't exist, I love to just imagine like a grandfather clock just awkwardly ticking in the background as they kind of look at each other. And they're all just trying to figure out what the fuck just happened. Right.
Yeah. Right.
And so there's probably first this consolation that you hear from anybody after death. It's like, well, they're still with us. We can still feel them with us. We still know they're watching over us and all that kind of thing. Right.
Yeah. And that would make a great follow up to The Life of Brian. Have you seen that? I mean, if Mel Gibson can make a follow up to The Passion of the Christ, then surely they could make a follow up to The Life of Brian, where they're all like, hey, this is a little awkward, but we invested a lot of time in this dude. And it turns out he's not the guy.
Yeah, we were always told to look on the bright side of life. What do we do? That'd be fantastic.
We need to turn lemons into lemonade like pronto. Oh gosh. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm frustrated as a former Christian seeing how the modern generation is just repeating the same shit that I went through.
Right.
But they're just taking it up a notch. And really, Sean McDowell, I was not as familiar with, but I knew a lot about his dad because his dad, Josh McDowell, had True Love Waits, which was a purity culture thing. And then he had this book like for new Christians that, at least in Baptist circles, that we would go through called the Survival Kit. And it was like, it had all these verses and study things and whatnot, to get you going down a little bit further into the propaganda.
Yeah, of course.
And
he was like the proto J. Warner Wallace, right? He was all about the evidence and things like that, right?
Yeah. So, we've get, and then like today, we got all these fucking Christian nationalists that honestly believe that the United States was founded as a Christian. Well, not that Christianity today looks anything like it probably did back then.
Oh fuck no.
How did you get through the day? Is it just the drinks? Is that how
I let a lot of things slide. I choose my battles. It's the kind of thing where, honestly, if I have had a couple of drinks, I'm probably more likely to say, what the fuck are you talking about? You're wrong. Let me go into a 30-minute explanation about why you're wrong. Yes, they were Christians, but they were Christians, and that's why they didn't want a fucking Christian nation. They all knew that all these different denominations would eat each other fucking alive. So they wanted to make sure none of them could have this power over the others. They all had a really bad taste in their mouth from the Anglican Church. And so, none of them, and so I can do that, and then I kind of bite my tongue a little bit because even though I'm not a Christian, I have a lot of family and a lot of social circles that I can't be overtly antagonistic. It's very much a sort of they don't ask and I don't tell kind of thing for probably more than just faith. But and so
that might blow up one day, though.
Yes, it almost certainly will at some point. I thought it would when my dad kicked the bucket last year.
Sorry to hear that.
I'm sorry to hear for your parents, but I was trying to deliberately be irreverent, so you didn't feel obliged to say that. He kicked the bucket last year, and because he was a preacher, and because I knew the circles he went in. Even though I didn't believe, things like that, I'm like, okay, I know 99% of the people who want to pay their respects and things want to do so from this faith perspective. And when he died, I was asked to speak. I was asked to do a few things. I was asked to speak at his funeral. I was asked to make, kind of like a video tribute for him, things like that. And this is, I'll say this is probably one of the reasons that Christianity and most faiths in general are so successful. Before Dad died, he'd actually made a sermon talking about the fact I have this disease. It may kill me in the future, but I'm at peace. Let me give you a sermon. Why? And so we had this like catered sermon to use for his funeral that made it really easy for people.
That's actually pretty beautiful.
It is, yeah.
I think it's beautiful when people examine their own mortality.
Yeah.
And sounds like your dad did that. And
he did.
I also think, if I can go into Star Wars lore a little bit, that there's no point in arguing with old people about their faith. I mean, there just isn't, because it's kind of like how they don't turn a Jedi after a certain age because there's complications. And I'm like, listen, you're 70, 80 years old. You're not going to handle that angry atheist phase very well, because you're going to be mad, because you're going to go, oh, everything I believed my whole entire goddamn life was a lie.
The entirety of my identity in existence. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you can get to them before 70, maybe they can live out, a few years of bliss and mental peace. But outside of that, I'm like, I'll just be like, no, I don't believe, and that's okay.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but that is very beautiful that he had that, and plus it saved you some time. I mean, that you didn't have to come up with anything.
It did, yeah. I was pretty, because I was handed this video stick of this sermon of his, and I put it on. And I'm like, well, fuck yeah, that does kind of make this video a lot easier to kind of edit and put together here, because he does a lot of it for himself. I just got to put together some fucking music, and he wanted Stairway to Heaven and Jesus Freak for background music, so I'll just toss those in there and be fucking good to go. But yeah, it's also the sign of just how soothing this is, and it is one of the things that I absolutely acknowledge may not be 100% healthy for humanity, but is absolutely one of the biggest draws for a religion. Is dealing with death is fucking hard. Like dealing with loss, no matter what you believe, is going to be fucking hard. This person that you've known is just not there anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this idea that you're going to see him again, that it's in a place where they're happy and they're waiting for you to join them, and we won't think about the hellfire and the brimstone for the people who don't believe. That's for another time. But let's think about the pearly gates and the warm lifetime of worship, and then, like, which sounds fucking exhausting to me, but for some people find it consoling or whatever the fuck. But it's like, okay, I can absolutely see how that endears people to some belief system. I really, really do.
I wonder if all religion focuses just on the fear of death.
I think it's a large part of it, for sure. I think it's and I have no idea how long we've been talking, Gene, and I have no idea how long you want us to talk. But
I don't make the rules.
But yeah, I think if I break it down into the two most kind of basic levels, it's this consolation of death, which is just fucking impossible for us to genuinely fathom, right? We can't fathom our existence before birth. We cannot fathom not being here, right?
Yeah.
Because this is our only frame of reference. And so, that's a huge part of it. And the other, genuinely, it's kind of twofold, is purpose and community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dissatisfaction is almost part of the game for humanity, right? You cannot feel like, you know what? I've got it good. No one ever feels like I've made it. I am right where I want to be. Then nothing could possibly be better, right? There's always some dissatisfaction.
Yeah.
And so the idea that you can be merely existing for a higher cause is a ton of appeal. And if you can have a community that is supportive and welcoming and says, hey, we're so glad you're here, and let's not think about the fact that there are things that we do indeed need to do and follow. I know we're supposed to pretend this isn't of works, but definitely we need to change our behavior. And also, let's not think about the loved ones that we're never going to see again after death. But for the moment, we're part of this grand community with this grand purpose, and we're loved by the most heavenly, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And I think that's true of most religions. This sense of validation in something higher. It's like, okay, well, it's nice to know that this day-to-day life where I just got to get up and put one fucking foot in front of the other. It's nice to think that's not all we got to put up with, right? And yeah, I think that's absolutely one of the biggest things about it.
Yeah. The flip side of that is that those left behind can get a little weird about that. And I had an incident at the beginning of the year where my aunt died. Quick plug, episode 29 for anyone who wants to go hear that one. It's just a short little rant of mine because my aunt died, and then like 2 weeks later, I got a video of her from her deathbed telling me I needed to get back to Jesus.
Oh my fucking God.
And I did not handle that well.
Of course not.
And now I don't talk to the rest of the family.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
I know. Like, I was like, oh, this is no. Because I was just so upset because I chatted with the family and set the kids down and be like, listen, there's going to be like a lot of religious shit here. Yeah. We just need to plug through. We just got to deal with the gods and then, make them happy and then get out of here. Like the Greeks. And then, and they did great and everybody did well. And then I was looking back at it afterwards. I was like, holy shit, was this whole thing? Cause there were like 3 different like sermon prayer things. And I was like, maybe this is a little paranoia, but I was just like, I think they did all of that because of me. I feel like all of the prayers were like, we know there's one person in here that that clearly hates God. Yeah. Like, don't hate God, don't think he exists. But
no, that's so, I do think that's kind of an underhanded thing. If you don't mind, I'll piggyback off of that and absolutely, it's just undermine the heartfelt feelings you just had. And like when my dad kicked the bucket, I mean, look, I'm non-binary, I'm pansexual, I'm agnostic. The amount to which dad acknowledged that is kind of iffy. The fact is but I did genuinely love him. He was, for an evangelical preacher, he was pretty dang cool. Yeah. He really tried to not focus on the fact that gay people definitely don't go to heaven and things like that. He didn't want to believe it, but he kind of had to. And it's that sort of respect I have for the types of Christians. They're like, look, we don't necessarily think this is the right thing to do, but if this dude exists and if he's calling the shots, we need to we have to just kind of go along with what he wants. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I can acknowledge that. That's fine. But yeah, so I was an evangelical preacher. I'm this non-binary, asexual, yet somehow fairly pervy, agnostic person. And so we had this really, really complicated fucking relationship. And all of therapists for the rest of my life. And that's okay. But it's like, but I know exactly what you're talking about how while that's going on, I had people genuinely kind of hinting that God would want to see me. Most of them don't know I'm not saved anymore. Kind of let them believe what they want to believe. But I also, there's very much your dad may have lost hope because they won't phrase it as lost hope, but maybe your dad would have lasted longer if you'd have been helping him with ministry, or his heart must have been broken to not see you as active and things like that, and whatever the fuck. It's like, this is so fucking insidious. Like, this is such terrible, an undermining bullshit, right? And my response to all of them was just kind of, actually, I don't know if I responded to any of them. I just kind of, it's just like, what the fuck you know?
Yeah, right.
This is not the fucking time to do that. I know death is one of the biggest selling points of this whole fucking religion, but fuck you.
I mean, it is the cornerstone, really.
It's the cornerstone, yeah. Because, I mean, if you have a sales pitch, it's really convenient if everything you're promising doesn't happen until everyone's dead and can't see whether you're telling the truth or not. But,
and it's a great scam. I mean, if you think about it. So yeah, I know what you're talking about. We clearly have some similar stories, thoughts about, a loved one passing and then dealing with everybody else. Now, how do you classify yourself as agnostic or atheist?
I don't fucking know, dude. Again, I'm non-binary and agender. I don't commit to anything at this point. But probably agnostic. I think is probably the best bet. Agnostic with the leaning that I don't think there's any fucking argument that holds mustard, right?
Yeah. That's a thing.
Holds mustard. I think it's holds muster, like the military term. I'm actually not 100%.
You know, actually, we're switching it. We're officially changing it today to holds the mustard. So, because sometimes I do hold the mustard, sometimes I get it. I mean, and I'm like, now I'm gonna spend the rest of the evening like thinking about like how can I make holds the mustard like make sense?
Exactly. We're gonna make this work. You're making it a thing, 100%.
So you said you got your undergrad in English?
Yes, I got my undergrad in No one's going to tell that the tone genuinely changed between us splitting the clips here.
So these days you're living a fairly God-free life. I mean, I'd say God-free life, and you're teaching. And these kids. I mean, I hope you're teaching them like true things about American history. And I mean, do they come to you with like, "Hey, I saw on Facebook that Talking Point USA said this," and then you're
sometimes.
Like, oh yeah, you gotta correct
sometimes. A lot of the kids I deal with, a lot of the students,
not Talking Point.
I'm with you 100%.
Yeah.
I'll say this, and I'll say this in this kind of my hope for this coming generation, and I don't know, maybe this will be a sign off or whatever. Fuck, I don't care. A lot of the students I deal with do come from kind of religious homes. I deal with a lot of immigrant families. A lot of the students I have are maybe first generation Chinese, Korean, Indian descendants. So I have a fair amount of Hindu students, but among the Korean and Chinese students I have, overwhelmingly they kind of come from Christian backgrounds.
Yeah.
However, I will say this. 99% of the time when I talk to these kids, obviously faith doesn't always come up all the time anyway, if I'm talking about history or English or whatever the fuck. When it does come up, which is usually when they're trying to write essays about themselves or whatever, they are working really, really hard to take this faith that they've been raised in and reconcile it with the world instead of dismissing reality at the expense of their faith or whatever, right? I had this student not too long ago who came in. He was a lot of students. Most of the time I'm a private tutor, and I specialize in kids aiming for Ivy League schools.
Okay. And like Harvard, for instance?
Like Harvard.
Okay,
yeah. Did I mention I went to Harvard, Jane? I went to Harvard. And I act like I went to Harvard. Anyway, this kid came in. He was going for, I can't remember what fucking Ivy League school, but it's the situation. His dad was a priest. His grandparent was a priest, but he wanted to become a biologist. He was absolutely aiming for I think medicine specifically, but he wanted to write this essay, and the whole essay was about how he had to find a way to reconcile the fact that he knew evolution was factual with this faith that he'd been raised in. And what was really super fucking encouraging, and I don't give this a lot, and it's really fucking awesome, is his whole essay was about going to his Korean, I'm pretty sure he was Korean, his Korean grandfather priest who said, you know what, it's important to reconcile these things.
So the student was trying to reconcile faith with evolution.
Yeah. So the student wanted to be a biologist, raised by a Korean priest father, Korean priest grandfather, and he really had to balance these things. And his grandfather, which is really encouraging, instead of saying the fucking science is satanically influenced or demonic or whatever the fuck, is a reflection of creation. And if we want to be honest to God, we can't pretend these things don't exist. So I'm seeing a lot in this generation, a lot less of the kind of what you and I were raised with, of the, if it doesn't align with our literalist interpretation, it's wrong. And a lot more of, we are searching for the truth, and we're going to do our damnedest to incorporate as much of what we know for certain about reality as possible.
Congratulations, you've just bought a ticket to progressive Christianity, where we we just ignore shit, or we just interpret it differently.
It's all interpretation. That's okay, and we're trying to get fucking done, and I know that, Gene, but that is one of the biggest fucking cop-outs here is the interpretation of scripture. It's like, okay, well, we can't read into the text, we can't read out of the text, we have to appeal to the Spirit revealing the truth.
Yeah.
Because that's how I know my interpretation is right. It was revealed to me by the Holy Spirit and whatever.
Right. Well, that's why I say that those types, I mean, they're generally nice people and not a problem, and never ever come up to me and say, I don't like your shirt or something. But I would agree with you that I think they're probably nice in spite of their religion, not because of it.
Yeah. Yes. I do think there's probably a significant part of that.
But they're closer to an ally than they are an enemy. So
exactly. And
cool
when we
them.
consider, exactly. And when we consider Gen Z, probably even more Gen Alpha at this point, where they're seeing the previous generations who have no idea how to tell what the fuck AI is or not. Like that's, as I talk to a lot of my students, that's like one of their number one things is, how do we deal with a society that has no idea how to tell what's fucking computer generated or not, right? That's one of their most concerning issues at this point, which I respect the hell out of, genuinely.
Yeah, no kidding.
But it's like that demonstrates a kind of spirit of really wanting a value for truth, a value for a reality.
That gives me hope that there's a younger generation that are dipping their toes into critical thinking and saying, like, I don't know, maybe we should think about this from some more angles and see what see what formulations in our mind we come up about. About whatever is presented. So
and exactly. And my fervent hope is they don't take what I teach them for granted. My fervent hope is they'll take it and find some angle or consideration or something that I've never even fucking considered, and show me up to be a complete dope as they demonstrate a much more kind of greater understanding than I ever have. But yeah, so I mean, there's that is kind of the sign off, and I don't know. I don't know what you want from me, Gene, at this point.
Honestly, a drink sounds good. So, well, what I want from you, I want you to keep being awesome and doing that kind of stuff with the kids, because I really think that the best thing that we can give anyone, like, you don't have to lead them toward any one way of belief or non-belief.
Not trying to do that,
whether it's religion or history, but just say, listen, what do the facts say? Like what, and then how do we know that that's true? And like teaching them that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's what I want you to do. Keep doing that, because
100%.
We're surrounded by idiots.
So let me say that to anyone listening. Source evaluation is fucking crucial.
Always
look at sources. Please don't look at quotes. Look at where they're coming from. For the love of God. For the love of not God, for the whatever, I don't fucking care. Just whatever.
For the love of Google. That's what gets me about like the AI summaries.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it sounds nice and convenient, but I'm like, I'm gonna need to see the source on that one. And then sometimes you get in there and you're like, no, this doesn't say that at all. I mean, like the summary is like completely different. And so, we could probably talk for a long time about AI and its possible implications, but
can I leave you with one kind of takeaway from that? Because I don't feel like I don't care about your time, Gene. I will say I'm not going to tell anyone about my master's degree thesis or anything. But I
from
did,
where?
I did find out, because my master's thesis was on John Adams. I love John Adams. I'm a fan of John Adams, whatever the fuck. I, for whatever reason, had to look up a John Adams quote recently that I used in the title of my thesis. And when I did so, the AI description utilized my thesis and an article from the Heritage Foundation in this explanation at the same time.
Okay, that's interesting.
And I want to use that to demonstrate, folks, if you had any doubt that AI doesn't know what the fuck it's doing, the fact that it thought the Heritage Foundation and myself are on the same fucking page shows that it is years away from being reliable. And I don't know. That's probably that'll be my final
So
kind of giveaway.
check your
for
sources.
Check your sources.
And
You will find more entertainment in reading just random letters in newspapers and articles from history than more than any book or textbook. I promise that to the 7 people who have lasted this long into this podcast. So
well, that sounds great, and I think that's great. I mean, really, that's a good place to end and just say, hey, people, check your sources.
There you go.
Seek truth and definitely learn some history because you never know when it's going to come up in a conversation. And these days, everybody thinks they're historians.
Fucking
So, and I mean, I have an interest in history. I do not claim to be a historian in any way, shape, or form. But
it's whatever. I have fucking labels, man.
Yeah, fucking labels.